on. Whatever. Folks,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. There you go. Happy New Year. Wah, wah, wah. Folks, welcome to the first 2025. I think it take me a while to remember to say that. 2025 Talking Crit. I am Eric Tenkar. With me, as always, is my once a week work spouse, Bad Mike Satan Battalato. Can't leave out the Satan part.
Hello.
And with us, holding us up by his mere presence, is none other than Jim Kitchen.
I am the underwear that is attached to this colossal giant, two-headed giant above me.
And you should be happy we're at least wearing underwear. It's all I'm going to say on that topic, folks. Just going to say.
That's beautiful, beautiful. So for those that weren't around last night, there was actually a broadcast last night.
Yes.
And I jumped in towards the end. I watched the whole thing. I was watching a movie, but also watching that. And it was amazing to watch you guys get more and more liquored up as the evening went on. And get more and more ridiculous.
I don't understand what's happening.
Rach getting all upset because her what was it? I don't know what Bailey's didn't taste right. I'm sorry. It had a 2025 date. It was still good.
It should have been fine.
It should have been fine. She's like, it didn't taste right. Give me more of your wine. I was like, okay, it's okay.
I feel like the less said on that subject is probably the safer.
Jim, by the time I tuned in about 1:30 or 2 o'clock, everybody was thoroughly schnookered, and I was a sober person there, which is never a good deal. If I'm
that's a warning sign.
Yeah, that's a high bar you got to hit sometimes, you know.
You did a good show last night. You had about 40, 50 people watching at one point, I think.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised, very pleasantly surprised. Now, Rich and I think have done this, 3 years in a row for New Year's Eve, but this is the first time we actually opened up the doors to theoretically everybody. So I put the link up in the Discord server. So and Thaddeus is like the only one that jumped in that wasn't a regular. But we had Don and his wife, Tom and his wife. It was fun. Rob jumped in. So
Rob was there. That was fun. That was a good time. A good time was had it all. So.
Great way to say goodbye to 2024 and say hello to 2025.
Yeah, you got back-to-back shows, man. You said goodbye, and now we're saying hello. So this is awesome.
Sounds like a Beatles song.
Yeah, you say goodbye, and I'll say hello.
Oh God, he's singing.
So what are we? So
monetized. So I got to stop at that point.
What are we looking for in 2025 in terms of? So we. Following up on the 50th anniversary that really wasn't or sort of was, we still have the Monster Manual coming out, right?
Right. So 2024 hasn't ended if you're a D&D player.
Yeah,
if you're a D&D player, 2024 comes to an end, I think, in March, February. I don't even remember.
Okay, stop.
What?
Come on.
What?
Just we're just gonna pump the brakes right now. Right, because here's how this is. The 50th anniversary of D&D, the year's done. It's now 2025. If we want to talk about shit that came out in 1975, I'm all on. But I refuse to drag the 2024 50th anniversary lameness into 2025.
It's over. You're right,
Jim. It's done.
Over.
We have cooked this. This goose is cooked.
I don't give a shit about the Monster Manual.
The dog isn't even going to gnaw on what's left of this.
The Monster Manual is late. If it's late to the party, it's going to get locked outside.
I just don't give a shit anymore. I don't give a shit anymore, and I have been so tuned out of everything for the last week or so. I just don't care because really and truly, I had an epiphany today. I had an epiphany when I woke up. So lo and behold, and I was going to talk about this later, but this is the perfect time to talk about this, right? So I saw a long thread on what was once named Twitter from somebody who was like, well, WotC should have done this. And I read through it, and while that person's screed had some new points that we have not beaten into the ground, I just was like, you know what? It's a new year, and frankly, I just have no more fucks to give. My field behind me is barren, and I just don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But as Twitter takes away from my soul, also does Twitter give to my soul, because someone accused Mike Merrills of living in a fuck cave.
Oh, I saw that one.
Yes. And so then I got to actually like respond the way I should, which is number one, make sure you take the dimensions of the cave and you include this on your taxes so that you can deduct this properly as Mike Merrills Incorporated. And then the other is, I think I've talked about this. I can't remember if I've talked about this on the show or not. I hope that people are familiar with Nigella Lawson, the unbelievably smoking hot British cook, the woman that has a cooking show in the UK. If you aren't aware, at one point during an episode when they were filming it, she pronounced microwave microwave, and did it without missing a beat. Now, now, of course, like the internet explodes and says, "Who the hell pronounces it microwave?" And Nigella Lawson eventually had to come out and say, well, actually, in our house, among my family and particularly with my kids, that's our goofy name for the microwave because it sounds a little classier than microwave.
Right.
So I told Merrills today, and I got a thumbs up from Merrills, or I got a like from Merrills in regard, that he should pronounce it the Fouke Ave. That, Mike does all of his greatest work in his Fouke Ave. But I'm done. I don't want to talk about the 50th anniversary of D&D anymore. We've beaten this into the ground. There is no question about going on about this. Like, it's just done. The fact that they couldn't get the monster manual out in time tells you everything you need to know. Just, we're done. It's going to come out. It's going to land with a warm, wet thunk of rotten meat, and then we can just ignore it and walk past it. So I'm done. I'm just done.
Draw the curtain. The curtain just dropped.
The curtain. That's right.
Dropped, and then now we're in the 50th
slightly higher BMI woman has sung, and we're done. So,
and guess what we get to do instead? We get to do this is the 50th anniversary of Bunnies and Burrows. We can talk about that at some point. I mean, I'd much rather talk about the 50th anniversary of Bunnies and Burrows than I would about
yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm willing to devote 2 solid hours to a game I know nothing about that has bunnies and burrows before I want to talk about the WotC 50th.
I mean, look at all the games we're going to start being celebrating 50th anniversary. I mean, pretty soon we're gonna have Travelers 50th anniversary. We're gonna have
my God,
we're going to have.
We are awash in celebrations.
Oh, of course.
Let's move on from the bungled garbage that.
Listen, Bunnies and Burrows. I remember running a playtest of the light rules that Frog God game was published, and my players proceeded to out bunnies and violated a dead cat.
Okay,
because they were bunnies, and I realized the game. No game will ever survive your players.
This is where I just feel like, I got. Okay, so let's talk about chaos.
By the way, if anybody out there going, no, Bunnies and Burrows was released in 1976, it was, but according to Dr. Scott Robinson, I've talked about this, the game was actually written, created, and finished in 1975. And that's why this year at North Texas, we will have some celebrations of the 50th anniversary. And I believe Ron at Page is going to do something for the 50th anniversary too. So this is the 50th anniversary of when it was created, written, done.
I have to talk about Page for a moment. God love its heart. You know, Ron, nice guy, invited me to the Page Facebook, whatever. It didn't matter how many times I kept trying. I could not get the Facebook group on Page to accept the fact that I wasn't attending Page. Like, I shit you not, every couple of days it was like, are you, make sure. And I'm just like, I'm not going to be able to attend. Well, are you? No, I'm not going to be able to attend. Are you? And I was like, I finally have to leave the group. Like, Page was the con that would not stop haunting me. And I was just like, ah!
It was haunting. It was like,
it was like, I was like, whose dead cousin are you that is haunting me? Like, you must go to Page. And I'm like, no, stop. I can't. Leave me alone, man.
By the way, and Kim George brought up a point too. 50th anniversary of Chaosium.
And come on, right? That's the one we should celebrate. That's the one where like 4 guys got together and were like, we ought to start a game company.
Yep. 1975. You're right.
It's going to be awesome. And maybe that's a little bit of artistic license with how it came to be, but come on, it's not that far off.
Well, and here's what's interesting about Chaosium. We'll probably heck, we can spend a show on this sometime. Not tonight, though. I need to do a little more research and stuff. But they formed the company, and then all the creators stepped back eventually, and it was taken over by other people who kind of pretty much ran it to the ground.
Ran it into the ground.
And the original creators came back and said, "Not so fast." And they not so fast, Billy Ray, and they took it back over, and now it's a huge success again. It's they made this thing into a juggernaut again. So that's an amazing success story there.
And truthfully, again, I've railed about this. I will rail no longer. I will, but really and truly, like, let the creatives do what creatives are really great about, and just have a hand that steers. Don't let the suits take over and push the creatives out, right? Like, there's got to be a good, there's balance and harmony within the force, right? The light side of the force are the creatives who make amazing games and so on and so forth. The dark side of the force is like, whoa, you got to have a budget. Whoa, we got to make sure our spend isn't too high. We'll get this to market, but yes, and these two forces have to act in concert. One can't take over the other.
And there's a lot of stories too about that they had two extremely successful Kickstarters in a row, but then it was kind of found out that maybe they were spending money on things they shouldn't have been spending money on, like when they did their Orient Express Kickstarter, and they decided it'd be a great experience if all the Chaosium employees could take the Orient Express that year to bask in the Orient Express.
I priced the Simplon Orient Express one time seriously, and the amount of money it was going to cost to go from Paris to Istanbul or Istanbul to Paris was simply a staggering amount of money that I could not on any way, shape, or form. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, at the time, 25, 30 years ago, like, when you're deep in love, lust, and you are having a great time, lust, and you think to yourself, I can't imagine how much better this could be, but maybe it could be better on a fancy train. And then you price this, then you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to stay here. I'm good. I'll fly domestic. I'm not.
Oh my God. I just looked at the prices. Oh dear.
Yeah. Well, think about
for 5 days. Oh my God. 5 days. The cheapest for 5 days is $19,000.
Oh, dude.
That's the cheapest. That's the cheapest.
I mean, I might have gotten a loan if I had been like
per passenger.
If I had been like going to be honeymooning with a supermodel, I might have contemplated this. And in fact, I only know one person who's ever actually done the Orient Express.
Really?
And they spent all the money, and they had like whatever the bridal suite is on the Orient Express. That's what they had. And he was just like, at some point you're just setting $100 bills on fire and you just don't even
but Jim, look, if you book early this year, you can get it for only $17,500 per passenger.
For that much money, I'll bet I could go on a Disney cruise and Mickey might come over and brush my hair.
Minnie might service you for that much.
I wasn't going to make the joke because I don't want the Disney
I would do it. So that's
Come on, you gotta keep it clean. Like
I knew you left it there. You threw a softball, so I'd hit it out of the park.
Yeah. I'm trying to be conflict adverse. I'm just, come on. We're all tired after the holidays. We've been around family. Everybody's like, when does the dust settle and we go back to some normality? And I'm just, I'm trying to close out the last of the few holidays and put this all in the rearview mirror.
But anyway, it was decisions like that led the original creators to come back in and say, that's not. No,
and I believe they also spent, they also had to spend a tremendous amount of money against copyright infringement overseas, which is just a level of burning $100 bills that's crazy. We'll simply call them unforced tactical errors in regards to some other things, which we won't discuss. And then life goes on. And come on, right? I'm happy that all these companies are around 50 years
Absolutely. Later. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, did we think we were going to be around to see the 50th anniversary of TSR and calcium and all. No, I didn't think. Who thought?
Did any of us think we'd live this long?
No.
Not when I was young, no. My God, 50s, you might as well just roll me off the pier and let me sink.
I mean, I can remember being in third grade trying to imagine what kind of life I would be living in the year 2000. I can't even imagine like what me thought about. I wonder one day if I'll ever get a second Star Wars trilogy. You will. In fact, you'll get two, and they're both going to suck.
You might not
for
want
entirely
them.
different reasons.
Okay, I have a story about that. So, but way back in the day, my brother and I, Robert, if you've met Mr. Speedo at North Texas, is my brother. He runs the chariot races, runs the gladiator races, and we've been gaming together forever. Obviously, me and him. So, during his college years, he had a mohawk. He wore boots and was like
Commander Salamander.
He was a punk. He thought he was a punk rocker, but like this is like 1981, 82. And he would do the thing where, man, if I live to be 30, just shoot me because I don't want to live that long. And so we have a mutual friend. His friend said, okay, I want you to write a contract. If you're 30 years old, you give me permission to shoot you. And so they made a contract up, but there was only specific things in there. This friend could only take one shot at him, like one bullet, one shot, that's it. And so Rod's like, yeah, I'll sign that contract because I'm not even going to live to be 30. Wow. And so he signs the contract. Fast forward 10 years. And he's 30 and he's married. He's going to have kids. And the friend goes, by the way, I still have that contract where you allow me to basically shoot you and kill you. He's like, how much is this worth for you to buy?
That's right.
I mean, obviously.
Tell me how much my soul is worth.
Obviously, it wasn't going to stand up in a court of law. Probably. I don't know if Ty can tell us. But it was a funny joke. And so he bought him out. I think he bought him a bottle of Tawaka or something because they love Tawaka. Bought him a bottle of Tawaka and he bought the contract back. But that,
I think your brother could have gotten off with like a half a case of Colt 45.
Well, and the problem was it wasn't a bad bet at that point in my brother's life if you knew him back then. That was probably even odds he was going to make it to 30. I mean,
I love young people that are like, I'm never going to live. Like we've all been there. I'm never going to live to see whatever, fill in the number, right? And this is pathologically uniquely male, right? You don't see women at the same age going, I'm never going to live to see 30, right? You never see that. What you see all the dumpy guys are like, I'm never going to live to see 30. I'm just going to smoke and drink all my Mountain Dew and give me another 2-liter Mountain Dew and give me more pizza. And really and truly, like, yeah, you are pretty much setting yourself on that path, buddy. But then they make 30 and they're like, oh, what do I do now? I better spawn. Yes. And it all just goes from there.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Eric's like, I identify with this.
No,
we're all going through this, where we at one point thought that 60 was old, and now I'm sitting here like I'm turning 62 next month. I don't think it's that old anymore. I don't know.
I just feel like there should be certain landmarks in your life, right? So 18, 20-year-olds, they're invulnerable, right? They can do anything. Yeah. Right? They can drink a half a bottle of Jack Daniels, smoke an entire pack of Marlboro Lights, and they can get up the next morning and function. If any of the three of us tried that, we would just kill ourselves. and you're young and you're invulnerable, and there's another phrase that I won't use, but it's regrettable and it's true because you're just every girl or guy. They're just young and dumb and they're looking for a place to put it. I'm leaving a key phrase out. But then you get to 30, right? And what happens at 30 is your warranty runs out. Because number one, your metabolism is like, hey, whoa, we were going way too fast there for a while. I think we should slow down. And my classic example is I have a cousin who was on the beer and pizza diet, and he collided with 28 and gained like 60 pounds. Ooh. It was just like, how am I so large? And I'm like, well, dude, you've never even conceived of drinking light beer. And you get a pizza with everything at least as much as I used to. And then you get to 40, right? And 40 is where if you've had kids, you're used to the graying hair because you've had it since you became a parent. Mm-hmm. But 40 is where like your bifocals are your new best
Oh,
friend,
Jesus, yeah.
and you went from a 4 or a 5 head all the way up to a 6 or 7 head, and so on and so forth. But I think there's some other milestones, right? Like I think once you get to 55, somebody needs to intervene and say, "Hey, have you thought about a hip replacement? Because you might want to think about that hip replacement.
Oh, boy.
Better to be doing it sooner than later, right? Because I mean, I have no illusions. I don't necessarily think that the Casanova of my basement office, will in fact be Mr. Lover Man. But like perhaps I should get the hip replacement now because I don't want to do it before I'm like 70 or 80 when it could be problematic. And they don't tell you that too, right? You're going to be 70, 80, and they're like, oh, by the way, osteoporosis is going to come along, and you're going to have the bones of a hummingbird. Rock on, buddy. And you're just like, what is it? Why?
I mean, I looked at. So this week we lost one of our ex-presidents, Jimmy Carter, was 100 years old, and I look at that and I go, okay, that's old.
Yeah.
I look at that
a century. Call it what it is. A century. Yes.
But I'm sitting here looking at like 80, going, 18 more years, I'll be there. Is that really that old? And
I mean,
and
you have another 38 in you is the question.
Well,
I have another 38.
No, I don't. But a lot of people in our hobby now, a lot of the names we grew up with, they're about 10 years older than us. They're hitting those 70s, and maybe some of the older ones like Dennis Astaire, co-creator of Buddies and Burrows. He's in the deep into the 70s, and so it's not beyond the realm of possibility that we could actually get there ourselves and be the ones telling the kids nowadays, I remember I was there 3,000 years ago when AD&D, when you rolled 3 6-sided dice.
When you rolled dice, it wasn't all online.
We rolled dice. We didn't just randomly generate numbers. We actually rolled these things called dice.
Hey, we rolled them uphill both ways. You wouldn't believe what we did with those dice.
Dice were this big.
Oh, no, they believe what we did with those dice.
Yeah.
So let's see. So I had a little knock list of things, but I think we ought to talk about, did we get any gaming things for Christmas? Ooh. I think that, or holiday, whatever. Did anybody get anything? Because I collided with reality this year, which is that the only Christmas gifts I got were either the ones I bought myself or that I actually pointed to and said to my son, go put that on the counter, use my credit card to pay for it, and you could wrap it and give it to me.
There you go. I like that.
Well, it's that way you don't have to take it back.
Listen, I got a lot of Amazon gift certificates because my family knows me and knows that I'm a pain in the ass.
Yep.
So the main present was for me was the 4850 printer from Epson. So now I got a Well printer, which is double-sided with full color ink. That looks really, really good, and we'll see what I actually wind up doing with it. But I wanted it.
My God, how we've reached a point where we're excited about your printer technology.
I know. But hey, I got the D&D Lego minifigs. Amazon, I got them from Walmart, but after I got them at Walmart didn't have the complete set anymore. But now Amazon does. And that way you don't have to like randomly hunt and peck. They send you all 12.
They do. Are you sure it's all 12?
I haven't done.
Because they were selling them in boxes of 6, and those were anyway. So Eric, here, I'm going to save you all time.
Already.
Okay, stop.
But we'll see.
Stop. I'm going to save everybody time. What you want is an app called OMG Bricks. So go on the App Store for your phone and get OMG Bricks. And OMG Bricks has a minifig scanner. So if you go into OMG Bricks, first of all, it kind of looks like that, which you can't see. And then you go down to the lower right, and it says minifig scanner. And that will help you make sure that you get the one.
If you're getting them in a store. Except the Amazon one wasn't being sold by Amazon. It was being sold by a company that
Dude, every Walmart and Target at this point has D&D minifigures that they had locked up in their distribution center. Yeah. I'm just trying to help.
I know. But I was too lazy. I was like, listen, just send me a full set. Pre-pick, so I don't have to. But so I have. But now, of course, I realize I got to assemble them. So I haven't done that yet. So
other than the printing machine that you're fondling softly behind Rachel, Mike, what did you get?
I got two. I just looked at 2 things. Now I'm like the same way. I don't like to get presents because nobody knows what to get me. But I bought myself 2 things. and I think I ever showed this a few shows ago. This is the reprint of the Marvel Comics 1975 calendar, which matches up with 2025.
Oh,
yes,
no.
Every month.
I had that. I still
Classic
have it
artists.
somewhere.
The classic artists back in the day, all the guys you know and love.
Is that the one that's got the? Is that the one where 1 month is? No, I had the Spider-Man calendar. I had the
this is the
Spider-Man.
Marvel Comics. So January is Spider-Man, February is Defenders. March is that badass Luke Cage, and it's got all the little funny things when all the artists. So that's really cool because I don't do calendars a lot, but I thought that I keep, because I'm like you, Jim. I still have like my 76 calendar Marvel Comics, my 78. I didn't have a 75, so I bought that so I can use that this year.
That's great.
And then I got this. I don't know if you've heard of this, Jim. I'd heard about it, and I'd never seen it, and it finally became available through my subscription service. It is so there was a series back about almost 20 years ago. It was called Solo, and it was 12 issues, and it was DC Comics. What it was is it was the best artist creators, DC Comics. They did a comic that features several superheroes. So each comic would have 4 or 5 stories, and that artist was the only artist on all the stories.
Yes.
And this is the collected edition, which it's been on. I've had this on my want list for 2 or 3 years. It finally came up. I bought it, but it's got an issue. Tim Sale has an issue. Howard Chaykin, Darwin Cook, who's an amazing artist.
Yes.
Michael Allred, Sergio Aragonés. So they all do an issue where they do like one issue might be I'm like Tim Sale's issue. He does a story, but he does a Batman Catwoman story. He does a Supergirl story, but he's the only artist, and then other people write the stories. And I've always wanted this, and it's really amazing. And it just slipped under my radar 20 years ago. I mean, it came out. That's
amazing. Yeah,
it just slipped out of my radar, but I finally got the collected edition, which I had on my want list for years. It finally came up. Winner of 3 Eisner Awards, which is the Comic Book Academy Award. So I'm looking forward to digging into that. And then I got some Hellboy hardcovers that I was looking for because I'm kind of a Hellboy fan. But no, gaming wise, I don't really want a lot at this point. I'm kind of looking ahead. I'm interested in some of the stuff that's going to be out this year, OSR wise.
Right.
But there's nothing that I just said, I've just got to get this. And I bought I did get this too. This was something else I wanted to try. It's called Letters from the Dark. It's an RPG zine. It's a zine. And there was 5 or 6 issues, and somebody suggested to me, and I don't remember who. And it's by Chris Powell. And each issue, it's an OSR zine, and it has like dungeons in it. It has rules. It has different kinds of characters. It's just all kinds of really kind of stuff I love out of a zine. And it's they're print on demand. They're pretty professional done. But he has 6 or 7 of these now, and I just got a couple to see if they're any good. And they're really good. They're like $5 or $6 if you have a chance. Go Letters from the Dark. It's on drive-through, and look at the zines and find one that has subject matter you're interested in. There's monsters. There's a monster section in every one. Like I said, there's a dungeon in every one. And so I read these are really good too. I love zines. I've loved zines for 50 years. Zines are great.
It's your bread and butter.
But this is stuff I bought for myself. I don't really get presents. I don't like presents. I don't like to get presents, The
older we get, the less we like surprises. Right?
Yeah, I just want to go buy something. If I want something, I'll just go buy it. Just if you're going to give me a present, give me cash or a gift card, and I did get a gift card for Starbucks. Somebody gave to, which I don't ever go to Starbucks, but I'll go to Starbucks. It's just that I don't feel like spending $18 for a latte.
The last thing I bought from Starbucks was a glow-in-the-dark cup with a glow-in-the-dark straw because 6-year-old Jim is still fascinated by glow-in-the-dark thing. I mean, really and truly. And so every year in my in-laws, my mother-in-law makes what I call fat pants, but everybody else would call pajama pants, right?
Right.
So she goes and she buys flannel and she makes pajama pants with a waistband. So if you saw me at GaryCon this past year, at one point I actually changed into a pair of pajama pants and was trolling around trying to look like a near Dwell version of Bill Webb.
I was about to say, yeah, it's the Bill Webb.
But in fact, I could not consume enough alcohol to even come close to 1/10 of Bill Webb. So I got a pair of one of my nieces and I got pants with glow in the dark eyeballs all over them. Now I got them first.
I like it.
She got them Saturday, and so on Saturday she changed into them. I changed into mine, and then I pulled out a UV lamp that I have because Doc Savage fan, and I said, "Hold on, close your eyes. I have to show you something even cooler." She goes, "What?" And so made her close her eyes, turned off the lights, hit them with the UV, and charged them up. And I said, "Open your eyes." She goes, "Oh my God, they glow in the dark." I was like, "I know." So that's the best part of being an adult, right? So let's see. I got that. I got a stack of movies that I bought for myself. My child bought me some Brad Point drill bits that I wanted. I don't know. Like this is you reach the point where you're like, I got enough. I'm good.
Yeah,
like, really.
you know.
Now, last night I was a murder hobo, and I was one of those people who started slugging people to kill them and get them out of the way so I could order the new Lego modular set. Because every year I get the new Lego modular set, so I ordered it last night and it's on its way. Woot woot. But no, like there's just I don't need a bunch of stuff under the tree anymore. Yeah. I just don't.
We're getting rid of this is the point of our life we're divesting.
That's right.
I've got a pile of stuff here that I want to list on eBay. I'm going to take pictures and throw this up. I mean, I'm just divesting.
Life has two stages: accumulation and dispersal. That's it.
and
Once you crest the mountain,
yes. And one thing that I'm always very passionate about, people know me, is control your dispersal. Do not leave your dispersal to other people. You need to control your dispersal because I guarantee you, what you want to happen to your stuff is not what it's going to happen to it unless you are in control. And that's so I'm grabbing Mr. Procrastination. I'm grabbing the bull by the horn saying, I want to be in control of dispersal. Yes. I don't know if I told you all this story or not, but my granddaughter decided that she likes DC Comics now. She's 16. I'm like, oh. And so, of course, who has comics? Me. I've got 15,000 comics in my storage. So I said, who do you like? She says, well, she likes Batgirl, Catwoman, Oracle, Black Canary. She likes chicks. She likes chicks. I'm like, perfect.
Sure.
So I had a leak in the new storage shed about a month ago, and it got into one of the boxes that I did not have poly bags on, and luck would have it, it was Birds of Prey. So for those who know Birds of Prey is a team up book where Oracle assembles people like Batgirl and Catwoman and Black Canary, and they go on.
The movie is terrible.
The movie's terrible. Don't.
It's awful.
But Chuck Dixon wrote like the first 50 issues, and then Gail Simone wrote the next 50. So I was able to gift that. Along the bottom, there's a little bit of like wrinkle. Well, I can't sell them now. I can't sell them. I don't really want them anymore because they've got the wrinkle in them. They're not any good. So she got a big box of 126 Bird of Prey comics, and she was extremely happy.
Over the damn moon.
And then I asked her, what do you want for, what else? Is there anything else you want? Because, I mean, this is kind of a re-gift in a way. And she goes, yes, I want to go see Superman movie next July.
Okay.
Like, I can do that. That's awesome. So I am so excited. She's the first kid or grandkid that showed any interest in comics throughout my whole life. And so now I'm like, you just got the keys to the kingdom, honey, because
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that was exciting. I was glad I like to give stuff, and that was fun to be able to give my comics to somebody who I know is going to read them and appreciate them, because she was just like, she couldn't believe it. She's like, oh my gosh. And I asked her, I said, well, have you been buying comics? She said, well, no, I get online comics. So all the kids read online now. They don't read comics.
No physical media.
And I said, is there some kind of service or something? She goes, no, Papa, it's kind of pirated. I'm like, oh, okay. So,
I've asked you, Swab. They're navigating dirty seas.
Because I read the whole Batgirl series. I was like, is this the one that came out years ago with Cassandra Cain? She goes, yeah. I go, those are really expensive now. How'd you afford that? She's like, kind of went online and to a pirate site. I was like, well, whatever gets a kid interested in comics, whatever.
There you go.
And so that was fun. That's fun. Giving stuff to your kids and grandkids, and you're probably the same way, Jim, with Jack. It's fun to give him something and watch him get excited about something.
Well, I've talked about this, right? So I tried really hard. We all know people who put their thumbs on the scale and their kids had no chance. Their kids were going to be junior versions of them. They're
Right.
going to play D&D or whatever. And I'm really one of those people that thinks, this is like the people who are big deal high school athletes forcing their kids to go into athletics. When I lived in Canada, I saw this, everybody's kid was going to be the next Wayne Gretzky. Nobody's kid was going to be the next Wayne Gretzky. And so I've tried very hard with my kiddo. Like, there are some things of mine that he's interested in, but there are things of mine he couldn't give a shit about. And that's okay, right? Like, the things that we have in common, the things that he's interested in, I'm glad to partake. I'm glad to do this with him, blah, 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 blah. But I've tried very hard not to just like twist him arm and say, you are going to love this. And so when he comes to it naturally, it's much more engaging. It's much more, I know it's not astroturf. It's not artificial.
Right.
And that's the part that really, but I think you mentioned movies. I think we do have to talk about, have you guys seen Nosferatu yet?
I've heard.
It's on my list.
All my friends who have seen it all say the same thing, right? Number one, you have to see this movie in a theater.
Yeah.
You need to drop everything and you need to go see this. And then they say things like, and you aren't prepared for how naked the monster gets. And I'm just like, not exactly what I expected, but glad to know the monster sleeps naked. Now I've been forewarned. So if there's a long, slow, lingering coffin shot, it might be longer and more lingering than you expect. Beware.
Well, see, I'm screwed because my wife will not watch horror movies at all. I have to watch every horror movie. She won't do it. Won't watch horror movies. So I have to go see them by myself. So I will have to make a date with myself to go see Nosferatu in January because I've also heard that it is amazing.
It is supposed to be just, I mean, everybody I know who's seen it has just said spectacular, haunting, creepy leader. Yes. And I'm a guy that has some pretty, like, there's certain movies that really hit for me. I was talking about this over the last week or two. I finally broke down and bought The Howling on 4K. And I can't wait to watch this, right? Because if you haven't seen The Howling since the early 80s, this is the werewolf movie that has a couple of really great gut punches. And I won't spoil them, right? But this is a smarter than it deserves to be werewolf movie. And really, 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 really good. So I'm looking forward to watching that.
That was a fun one when we were kids. We loved The Howling. That was a good one.
Yes.
And you're right. It goes against the grain a couple of times. It has a couple of like, whoa. Hey.
And the ending is like, whoa, that just happened.
Didn't see that left turn. That was a left turn. Yeah.
And really and truly, right? Like, everybody remembers Scanners because everybody remembers how Scanners started. Because Scanners was like, okay, we're going to punch the gas and hold on to your seats, right? And Scanners is like, oh, I'm the guy sitting at the table. And meanwhile, Michael Ironside is in the audience, is like, you're like, whoa, that dude. And then there's other creepy moments in Scanners, like when she's in the waiting room and she realizes that one of the kids is the unborn child is the scanner. Oh, it's a great movie, just a great movie. So, sorry.
It's okay. No, oh God, there's a couple of movies that are coming out that people have been talking about. Oh God.
Well, like what? Like what?
I'm trying to think about. Damn it.
We watched so this holiday season we've availed ourselves of a free Paramount something, and we watched. We finished off Yellowstone. By the way, poor ending. First 3 seasons are great. Season 4 started to go south. Season 5.
This last season was such a phone in.
Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible.
But
it was
we
terrible.
also watched Tulsa King, which I liked more than
very good. Very
Sly's
good.
Awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. And we are in the middle of watching Landman, and Landman is got all the trappings of the classic Taylor Sheridan absolute cluster F. It's glorious. It's glorious.
I talked to our mutual friend, the wily Canadian Jeff, who has more experience about these sorts of things than Landman than any of the rest of us combined, any combination of us combined. And of course, he said it's 99.99% horse shit, but it's still entertaining horse shit. And I agree, right? Landman is entertaining horse shit, but like, and you can tell it's Taylor Sheridan. I'm sorry. Let's talk about Taylor Sheridan. This is a man who's been milking the I mean, he's absolutely been milking the Paramount cow for all it's worth. He made them shoot Yellowstone on his ranch. Yeah. He makes them pay through the nose for his ranch hands on his ranch. He charges them out the yin yang for all the craft work, catering, the whole 9 yards. He's absolutely been making a colossal fortune from
his girlfriend in Yellowstone. By the way, he plays the character in Yellowstone. His girlfriend's a supermodel because, if you're gonna cast your girlfriend,
he cast himself in Yellowstone so he gets an acting credit as well. Yeah. He wrote himself into the last couple of episodes of Yellowstone because he could.
Oh, by the way, he wrote himself into Lioness this season too. He was in Lioness. He wrote himself into that. So
yes, and really and truly, like I think we've all experienced enough Taylor Sheridan at this point. Like, I'm good to let it go. But I find that Taylor Sheridan does all these sort of over the top things just because, oh my God, it's Taylor Sheridan. Like Billy Bob Thornton's character's daughter is the classic Taylor Sheridan sort of, unbelievably hot, unbelievably unstable, unbelievably broken, says things that are horrifically scandalous. Mm-hmm. And it's all, ooh, Taylor Sheridan. And I'm just like, give me a break. Like, if any of my kids said anything like this around me, I would ground them, crash their cell phone, and be done with it, right? You lose your driving privileges, you lose your phone until I wash your mouth out with soap. Like that.
But to his credit, the character's mom is a train wreck, and Billy Bob Thornton's a train wreck. The dad's a train wreck too.
So the only thing that hasn't happened yet with Landman, the one thing that we're all waiting for in Landman, right? Like, there should be betting odds in Vegas, and the betting odds in Vegas should be how deep into Landman, first season, second season, third season, what episode are we going to see Billy Bob Thornton's ex-wife, who's played by Ali Larder?
Oh yeah.
When are we going to see her in the whipped cream bikini she wore in Varsity Blues?
We're all waiting for it.
Because if he doesn't, then and just lets this hang out there, right? Because truthfully, it's Taylor Sheridan and he could get away with it. And that would be the moment where we're like, okay, that's the fan service. I don't want to see her naked. I don't want to see anything really scandalous. But if you give me that throwback, you get my respect. So
I'm with you. Well, but he writes entertaining train wrecks, and my problem with Taylor Sheridan is he starts out strong. His series, every series starts out. Yellowstone was strong. They start strong, and then I think about season 2 or 3 gets bored.
Battlestar Galactica syndrome. They had 24 amazing scripts.
Absolutely. First 2 years, 3 were great.
Third season was good. Mm-hmm. Fourth season was starting to get off the reservation, and the last and I heard a Ron Moore interview one time where he said we had no idea how we were trying to wrap this up, and that
look at Lost. Yes. Incredible first 2 or 3 seasons. Incredible. Then it starts veering a little. By the last season, they had no effing clue what they were doing, and they're just like, we wrote ourselves into such a corner. We don't even know what we're doing. And that's Taylor Sheridan syndrome. He kind of starts off. I mean, the first 3 seasons of Yellowstone, thumbs up, good stuff, great. Over the top. It's over the top, way over the top, but it's good. And then you could tell right when he lost interest, and then so as long as he stays on target. I mean, the first 2 seasons of Linus were really good. I thought season 2 was really good too. We just watched that. Very good. He hasn't lost interest in Linus yet. I don't know about Landman. We'll see how long that holds his interest. But
I think he has, because Yellowstone's gone. He's got to focus on making sure that the 3 shows he's got going right now are going strong enough to keep ahead of his mortgage. I think he paid cash, but really.
Now he's lucky. Now he's lucky though, because Tulsa King is co-produced by Sly, and Sly, to his credit, is a good writer and a very he's an okay actor. He does what he does. He does fine. But
he reads his scripts. He actually won't agree to a project until he reads his scripts.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but so do you remember the Mike Millar series Starlight? I've talked about it on the show before. Quick recap. Like an Apollo Gemini astronaut goes into orbit. Like I think a Mercury. I think he's like a Mercury astronaut, but somewhere in there. But he goes into orbit. And when he's in orbit, he is abducted and taken away to another planet where he leads a rebellion against a Ming the Merciless-like character. Doesn't marry the princess because he's engaged to the girl at home. That's it.
I just read it, Jim. Just read it.
I recommended that so strongly.
That's why I got it, because you recommended it. Really, it's great.
It's great. Perfect. It's absolutely perfect. But when he comes back to Earth, nobody believes him. Nobody believes that he was whisked away and in a week or two led a rebellion. And they don't know where he was, but they don't buy his story. And he is the laughing stock of NASA. He spends 40 years married, raising a family, becomes a widower. His kids show up on Sunday to take the kids to eat dinner with grandpa because they have to. And he's a lonely old man until a spaceship shows up in his backyard and a kid extends a hand and says, Duke McCoy, you have to come back to Tantalus and save us again. And that's where it picks up.
But I tell you what I loved about it, Jim, was because if you've read any Mark Miller stuff, it's dark, like Wanted, dark. Nemesis, it makes Wanted look like Disney. It's dark, dark, dark.
Yes.
And his stuff is usually Kick-Ass is pretty dark. So, but this, I read a little bit about it after reading it. I was like, this is unlike anything he's ever written.
It's
and I read
joyous.
About it.
It's absolutely joyous.
He wanted to do the exact opposite of everything he'd done. Because the guy has a great marriage. He never even thinks about another woman for 40 years.
That's right. The princess is like, stay with me. And he's like, no, I can't.
I got a girlfriend back home, baby. Got to go.
Right.
And so, it's good. It's not like anything he does because it's very hopeful. It's very, it's very, very much like you were saying, it's very much like Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff where somebody has to go to another planet and they end up coming back. It's has that vein, very much in that vein. I was shocked at how good it was and how different it was than everything else I've read by Mark Miller.
So Sylvester Stallone optioned Starlight because
if he's going to play the Duke character, it'll be awesome.
If they get it filmed, but he wants to be Duke. He wants to be Duke McCoy.
He's 70 though, Jim. I worry about him. He's 70.
I hear you and I agree. But really and truly, like when you read Starlight, right, and just I gotta spoil it at the very end after he saved the planet again, and the kid is taking him back to Earth. He's like, and I'll just go back into my life. And the kid, and he's a kid, says, "We can't let that be. You are a hero." Mm-hmm. And he says, "No." And he says, "Fine." And the kid brings the spaceship down on the White House lawn and is like, people of Earth, you must know that Duke McCoy was a hero twice. Twice he is saying, you're just like, yes! It's just great.
By the way, I was wrong. Sly is 78.
Yeah, too old.
That's a tough. He looks good. He looks great in Tulsa King. In Tulsa King, he plays a character 10 years younger than himself, which he can because he looks great.
But he's perfect in Tulsa King, right? He's absolutely perfect in Tulsa King.
But I don't know about Starlight. That is man. That's
the option may have expired, but as soon as Starlight was published, before it was actually finished I think between the third and the fourth issue, Millar had sold the rights to the book. And Stallone's name was attached to it. So we'll see.
If you're not a big Millar fan because you like, oh my God, I mean, some of his stuff is just cesspool.
It's unrelated to anything else he's done.
I mean, I like I said, his stuff is so dark. It's so dark.
It's Starlight.
But Starlight's not. And by the way, you recommended this, Jim. Is why I put it in at my local store. When you get one in, bring it. And I couldn't remember who had suggested this to me. And I just saw, that's available. I don't know why it's on my list, but it's on my list, so I'll get it. And I'd forgotten that you were the one that suggested that. So that was a great suggestion.
So good. It is such a good.
It was good. I read it one afternoon. It was so incredible. And I'll reread it again. It's really, really good. But yeah. So Sly. By the way, people don't know Sly wrote all the Rocky movies. He wrote every Rocky except for the last two with Creed's son. But he wrote all those movies. He's not a chowderhead. He's not a dumbbell. He is a He's a smart guy. So I think as long as he's on Tulsa King, it's going to be good. He's not going to let the quality go to hell. He's not going to let Taylor Sheridan do any weird ass, really bizarre. He's going to say, no, we're not. My character is not doing that. We're not going to do that. So I think that'll survive. Or maybe the other ones will get bored eventually, and
So I would throw out that over the last couple of weeks, when the holidays began looming on the horizon, I always try to find a series of books to read over the course of the week or two of the holidays. And I find that it's a great thing to sort of throw yourself in, because if you've got your family that are like, I love you, but after 4 or 5 days, I don't want to be around you. And I don't have that option. One of the things that I like to do is curl up with books. And so it used to be that every other year, what I do is I'd read Julian May's saga of Pliocene Exile. It's a big sort of operatic 4-book series. I love it. I've talked about it before. But this year instead, I made the mistake of choosing, not the mistake, but I decided to reread Ian Toll's, Toll, his War in the Pacific, World War II War in the Pacific trilogy. And this is absolutely like one of the best trilogies published, a nonfiction trilogy published in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years. I put it up there with Bowden's Black Hawk Down. I would put it with Face of Battle and Price of Admiralty by can't think of his name because I've spaced out and I'm old. But really and truly, this is a landmark work because it's well cited. It has all these wonderful examples of things. And so I was really tearing through it. I was listening to the audiobook or reading and back and forth. His first book was Six Frigates, as Ty mentions. But there's all these little nuggets that are sprinkled through the whole thing, right? All these wonderful little stories, like the Navy carrier pilots and what they went through and how they started the war and where it ended. We were trading carriers tit for tat with the Japanese after Midway. And at one point we were down to 2 carriers in the Pacific as a toll, and a year later we had 11, right? Yeah. But at the same time that we crank out 11 aircraft carriers, the Japanese are still making Mitsubishi Zeros in a plant that then, after they're done making them, the planes have to be hauled by oxen 20-some miles to an airfield. And the problem is that the oxen are dying off because they can't get enough food and they're working them too hard until somebody comes up with the idea of using Percheron horses, which are just as strong but eat half as much feed. And you read this, and this is where you think to yourself, how they thought they were going to win or even hold the line on the war is just ludicrous. Absolutely. Wow. Yes. So if you like nonfiction, if you like historical nonfiction, if you're interested in World War II, if you have a passing interest in the war in the Pacific during World War II, I cannot emphasize enough Ian Toll's Pacific War trilogy. It's spectacular. It starts with the darkest of the days at Pearl Harbor and the immediate aftermath. It talks about Nimitz being put in charge. If you've ever seen the movie, the more recent movie of Midway, there's a scene where the person who's been put in charge of the Navy, King, has his meeting with Nimitz as he's assigning Nimitz, and he says, it must be war. They're hiring the bastards, or I'm paraphrasing, but essentially they've hired the bastards because they need to win this. But Nimitz wasn't that guy, and there's so many wonderful moments that Toll has documented about Nimitz and Halsey and Spruance and all these wonderful people that came together to make sure the Pacific War went the way that it needed to go. I can't recommend it highly enough. I'm going to finish book 2 tonight. I'll start book 3 tomorrow, and I'll hopefully finish it by the weekend. So strong recommend. That's it for Jim's Book Corner of the week.
Woohoo!
Yes. So I don't know. Do you have something like that you reread? Do you have some sort of Christmas memories or holiday memories for books that you got as a kid? Like Treasure Island. I got a copy of Treasure Island as a kid and a copy of Kidnapped, but Treasure Island was the one that always resonated.
I never think I ever got. My parents got me lots of books. Don't get me wrong. I was, Book of the Month Club, Dandelion Book of the Month Club, whatever. I mean, I was always reading from like 4. But as I got older, they didn't know what I wanted to read. I wanted to read fantasy. They had no clue.
Right.
So it was like, yeah, here's $20 for B. Dalton bookstore. Spend it well.
Have at it.
Yeah, I'm going to get all the Fritz Lieber books I can get. And
Yes.
you binged on it, But didn't really get them for gifts because I'll get my father books for gifts because I know the topic that he likes. Him, it's like politics. Left or right doesn't make a difference. He just wants to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah. And really and truly, it's interesting because there's authors that fall out of fashion and fall back into fashion. Yep. P.J. O'Rourke passed away, and I remember every year for Christmas I would get my father the new P.J. O'Rourke book, and he would sit in a chair and just chuckle and enjoy this so much. It's funny because we all got a lot of, I'm assuming the three of us, we all got modules or books for, gaming stuff for Christmas and so on. So I have a lot of memories tied to certain modules for Christmas and so on. One of the things I can't remember if I talked about it or not, but when I was a kid, there was a seminal year where I got into the Edgar Rice Burroughs Mars books, and I got my dad bought me Princess of Mars, and then I started working on the others. And about the time that Christmas came around, my grandfather went into a Walden Books and he just bought the rest of the Mars series, and I got them all. And he was smart enough to actually put them in my stocking so that when I woke up on Christmas morning, I hit the stocking at the door and I just went back to bed and I read all the Mars books. I just settled in to read all the Mars. And so every year for Christmas, I buy myself an old Heritage John Carter Warlord of Mars blister of figures. And I've been doing this for 15 plus years, right? Every year I buy a different blister. I've only managed to buy the same blister twice. Only once have I done that. I've repeated only once. But I got another one this year, and I know that at some point I either have to send them out to be painted, I either paint them myself, send them out to be painted, or get rid of them when I'm 95 in a chair going, I can't do anything with these anymore. But it's one of those like little Christmas. That's one of those little sort of Christmas traditions that sort of matters to me and doesn't matter to anybody else. And like Ty Beard, the Starfleet Technical Manual. Yep. There was the Star Wars notebook with all the black and white sketches of everything. I didn't have that. I had friends who got that for Christmas. I had the Empire Strikes Back notebook that I got as a Christmas present. There's stuff like that. But we all have those Christmas presents that sort of ring in our mind and so on. Yep. But reading was always a big part of my Christmas. Like every Christmas, I would settle into a chair somewhere and I would end up reading books that I got or rereading modules or whatnot. Like, and that sticks with you. Like that's still part of my ingrained holiday behavior.
Well, one of my biggest acquisitions when I was younger, because I didn't know any better, was I found like the first 10 books of Gore in a used book.
My God, that explains everything.
Awesome! I got weeks of reading. I could go through a book a day, and I start reading it, and at the end of the first book, I'm like, that was disturbing, and then the second one, I'm like, that is making me feel very uncomfortable, and I never got farther. But it was the most disappointing. Like it was like birthday money I got. It's like I wasted it on what I thought was going to be this amazing finish, and it's like I got 10 books. It's like, and they're all like the Warrior of Gore, the Offender of Gore, the Penis of Gore. It's like Jesus,
the dual-headed Penis of Gore, and you're like,
what is this?
Stop. I saw something. You mentioned that. I saw something hysterically funny the other day. And I did not comment on it. I'm trying to demonstrate restraint.
Oh, please.
Just because you throw the bait, I'm not always going to rise to it. But a guy posts a picture, and Facebook randomly throws bullshit into your feed at this point, right?
Yeah.
And it was a post from a guy who said, I don't know how, but I bought the same Gore book 4 times. And I just started howling because what I wanted to do was be like, dude, how do you buy the same Gore book 4 times.
Why do you
Are
buy
you
a
just
book more than once? You shouldn't
I-
buy one more than one time.
like,
Come on.
and come on, I knew a guy in 9th grade that had discovered the Gore books, and they had changed his life forever because he was they're the greatest books ever written. And we all know now he's on a watch list. So
Oh my God, easily. Holy shit.
right, he's either in prison, he's on parole, or he's on a watch list, right? But this guy was heavily invested in the Gore books in 9th grade. Like way more than anybody should be invested in the Gore books in 9th grade. And
So
I just, he might be a captain of industry, but he's got a sex dungeon. I'm just betting you right now.
The only series of books that I should have learned my lesson and not bought more than one at a time, but I was like, I'm never going to find them again.
Oh, God. And did they smell? Because every time I've ever looked at a Gore book, it has a musty scent to it.
It did have, you know what? They did look well aged. I'll put it that way.
They were well used.
Yes. Oh my God! There's another series about the torturer. I can't remember
Severin the Torturer.
Oh,
Wolf's Book of the New Earth.
I was like, I can't, man. This is
I was going to bring that up because you asked if there's any books we've read more than once.
Yes,
I've read the 4 books. Okay, that was exactly what I was going to say. I read them in about 1984, right after they'd come out. I thought it was probably the best series I've ever read in my entire life.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. So I read it every 5 years. I reread the whole thing.
Yes.
So I probably did that 3 or 4 times because every time I reread it, I got something new out of it. So
yes.
the series, it takes place on Earth like thousands of years in the future.
Right.
So for the future that we've conquered the stars and come back to Earth and we don't even know how to take the spaceships off anymore. And so it's this guy, he's what's called, his profession is a torturer. And what he does is he tortures people. That's a profession for whatever reason to find out knowledge. And they use these really arcane, ancient things that are basically future technology. They don't really know what it does anymore, but they know if you stick somebody in it and put this electrode here and turn it on, it shocks them. So they don't know what it does anymore. So he's a torturer, but he breaks the rule of torturers. He helps a client die because he falls in love with her. And at that point, they say, Severin, you're out of the guild now. And so he takes his sword, Delandus S, gigantic, badass sword, and he takes his cloak and he starts across the earth. So it belongs. There's a type of literature called Bildungsroman, which is a coming of age novel.
Okay.
This is basically a 4-volume coming of age because he travels all across the earth and runs into.
I couldn't get
aliens. Runs into creatures, runs into weird people, runs into robots, and all this stuff. And they don't. The reason I had to reread it so many times is they don't play fair with you. They don't explain anything. Like at one point, he's talking to somebody, and you don't find out later on that person he's talking to is an android. And they never say he's an android, and you just figure it out because of what happens to him. He breaks down eventually.
I read those books when they came out, right? I bought every one because they were the Timescape logoed paperbacks. All those Gene Wolfe books. And I bought the first one, right? And I devoured it. And then I went back to reread it to try to fill in the gaps. That's the phrase.
There's a lot there exactly.
But the one that got me, the one that I actually got, I think somebody actually clued me in. But I had to read it and reread it, and then all the lights came on and the circuits connected, is that at one point Severin's in a bar or a house or whatever, and there's a picture on the wall. And what it is, it's a picture from one of the original Apollo moon landings. But they don't say that. But that's what Gene Wolfe was writing about, that the picture is actually a picture of one of the astronauts from the first moon landing. And his description of the setting and what it's in and so on and so forth. This is what Severin perceives. And this is he doesn't have the word.
He does a masterful job of presenting things from a point of view. At one point, you start realizing, so they talk about the new sun. Yes. S-U-N, sun. And you realize halfway through the series, they're talking about Jesus Christ. Because the Bible, at this point, it's so far in the future, the Bible doesn't exist anymore. They have they have changed SON, the Son of God, to SUN, Son. They think when Jesus returns, he will be an actual sun that will appear in the sky, because that's how far in the future, that's how much we've lost. And so that halfway through, you realize that when they keep talking about the book of the new sun, they're talking about the Bible, but they're talking about a rewritten Bible written thousands of years later, where that's not the Son of God, he's an actual son. But it's an amazing book. It takes him to this long journey. He goes and he, like I say, meets people. He falls.
It is a hero's journey. It is a hero's journey.
But I had to reread that thing. I read it in 84, then I reread it in 89, then I reread it in 94. I mean, every 5 years I read that. I think the last rereading was probably 2004, 2005. I reread the entire series 5 times. There was 3 further books in the series that takes place after he leaves Earth, which is a long story. He leaves Earth eventually, which add on to the story. Those came out a little later.
Yeah,
but it is an amazing series, because I had to read. That's why I had to reread it. I didn't understand it. First time I read it, I didn't understand it. Yeah. Every time I reread it, I would get something else. Oh,
it's frustrating me so much. I couldn't continue. I was like,
there's one part where I realized about 2 or 3 readings in there, he goes to this gigantic city, and it's not till you read it the second or third time you realize it's a spaceship. It is a world ship that has crashed on Earth, and it's the city now. And I didn't. It took me 2 or 3 times to read that before I realized it's a world ship. It's a world ship that has crashed, because he talks about how the way it's shaped, and you walk into the gates, but it's not really gates. It's
airlocks. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's just an amazing, and like there's some, which kind of cool is there's weird creatures on Earth, because there was aliens. They would go to these different planets, bring back animals for like alien zoos, and they escaped, and now they roam the Earth. And so it's a really interesting setting if somebody ever wanted to set a RPG there, which I'm sure they probably have at one point.
I think that one of the things that we could talk about, and we could devote an entire show to this, is we could talk about Gene Wolfe and the book of the New Sun. We could talk about Jack Vance's Dying Earth.
Yeah.
And truthfully, like I think it's just a matter of time before Goodman Gaines licenses Gene Wolfe's book of the New Sun. Because if there's a system that lends itself to not only doing it right, if there's a company that lends itself to doing it right and expanding on the properties and so on, I think Goodman Gaines' work on Lankmar, Goodman Gaines' work on Dying Earth, I think it's all been very above board. It's been splendid.
I think they did a good job. But by the way, Gene Wolfe says that because after a while I started reading critical acclaim for the books. I would read, okay, I don't understand what this means. I want to read something about explains Book of Your Son. Well, he at one point said he basically the Dying Earth was his inspiration for Book of the New Sun. And it makes sense once you read it, because that's the whole point of the Dying Earth, which is of course the Jack Vance book that Gary read, and Gary based a lot of D&D.
Yes, it is a Vancian magic system. D&D is a Vancian magic.
So there's a lot of D&D DNA in Books of the New Sun, Book of the New Sun, because it was based on the Dying Earth, which is a world that is so far in the future that magic is basically technology. That nobody knows the technology does, and that's the same thing.
It is the nth degree of Clark's rule that a sufficiently advanced technology is just indistinguishable.
So if you happen to like Vance's Dying Earth, you would probably like it. Now, I'll tell you the one thing about Wolfe is, and I learned this early on when I was reading him, it's not for children. He is an intellectual writer. You have to make a lot of connections yourself. He explains nothing. And I had a lot of problem with him when I first started reading him. Not just that, but his short stories. I never got his short stories. I never understood what they were about until I got older. And then I started parsing them. So that's one thing. If they're very dense, you can't just like read it on the subway, read a chapter here, a chapter there. You have to sit down and say, I'm going to read the books of the New Sun, and then you sit down and read them.
I was going to mention a couple of things. We've talked about some horror books, and I'll segue into this. Gene Wolfe and Jack Vance are what I would call they are incredibly literate authors who build a world, and if you don't figure it out, that's not their problem.
Nope.
Right.
And then you have people like you can look at Anna McCaffrey. I love Anna McCaffrey's books as a kid. I love, like the entire everything she came up with. I think the series went on a little too long, but she's passed away, and that's fine. But she was a mainstream author. She wrote science fiction for a larger audience.
Right.
The number of people that will appreciate Vance and Wolf is much smaller than the people who absolutely fell in love with Anna McCaffrey.
You're absolutely right. Yes.
But like when I think about horror, one of the people that I think about is Ramsey Campbell. Ramsey Campbell decided to start up the Necroscope.
Very intellectual writer, and doesn't explain everything. You're absolutely
right. Explain everything. But he hit the I've written all this highbrow stuff, but if I write these Necroscope books, they print money, and I'm going to write to a much larger audience. And he did, and he made a shit ton of money with that. But you and I have talked about Dan Simmons' Carrion Comfort before.
Great book.
And there's a whole swath of horror writers, Dan Simmons and Joe R. Lansdale. And these were guys who really decided we're going to push the horror envelope and go as far as we can and as dark as we can. And Lansdale in particular has absolutely carved out a ruthless path to grim horror. Absolutely some of the grimmest stuff I think I've ever tried to finish reading. But Simmons' Carrying Comfort is actually coming back out in a new edition. There's actually a new small press version.
I haven't read it in forever. I need to reread that.
That's the first version was not Whispers, but they did anyway. They're out of the company's out of business, but there's a new version coming. But all these sorts of people, I love clever world building. I really like clever world building. I like where they don't spoon feed you everything. One of my complaints about the Horus Heresy books is you get the list of all the characters at the front, and then the back has page after page after page of glossary and so on and so forth. And I think to myself, well, why don't you give me a separate book with all of that, or don't feed it to me in the front. Let me put all the dots together. Like, let me figure all of that together. And I would be happy.
You mentioned Ramsey Campbell, who also is a part of the Lovecraftian. He wrote a lot of Lovecraftian books too. He was very huge Lovecraft fan, but his stuff it's uber creepy because you don't really understand what's going on sometimes, which makes it creepier. Because if you're reading the average horror story, like even a Stephen King story, you kind of know where things are headed most of the time. Here's the monster. This guy's you got to run away from this monster. Oh, it's Christine. It's a car. The car is going to chase people down. A lot of Ramsey Campbell stuff, you don't know what the fuck's going on. It's just creepy as all. There's one book called The Doll Who Ate His Mother, and it's about a psychopath who may or may not be talking to a doll, but he may be worshiping Satan. I mean, it's just so vague, but it's creepy as all hell. And he is stalking people and killing them, but you don't really even know why. And it never really wraps up satisfactorily. And that's the kind of stuff that leaves you creeped out because you're like, I don't know what I just read. I don't know what just happened, but it's bad. It's really bad stuff.
Really, really great horror. And this can be books, short stories, movies, and so on. The really good horror is the stuff that still gnaws at your brain days later. And that's the kind of stuff like we were talking about. I mentioned The Howling earlier. When I say The Howling takes a left turn to Albuquerque at the end of the movie, it takes a left turn to Albuquerque. And it's one of those movies where you're just like, days later, you'll be like, I saw that. That's how they ended the movie. And you're like, okay. There are Ramsey Campbell, like we talked about the Necroscope series earlier. I understood why he wrote Necroscope. I understand, and it's again a series that went a little too long, but he was making so much money on Necroscope that it, like his first year with Necroscope, the first two Necroscope books, he made more money than he had made in his entire career as a writer.
So Jim, somebody just brought this up, and this is true. I forget. Brian Lumley wrote Necroscope.
Or Brian Lumley. Sorry, not Ramsey Campbell, Brian Lumley. Brian Lumley Another guy discovered by Arkham House, Collar in the Black.
He was a Lovecraftian guy. He wrote all kinds of Lovecraftian stuff. Yes.
Yes. But Campbell too. Height of the Scream, all these others. And people forget that Russell Kirk wrote a great, really interesting horror collection. I'm a big Basil Copper guy. I've said that before. I love Gothic horror. I love, again, I want something where it's just going to nibble on my brain days, weeks, months, years later, where I think about it and I'm just like, holy shit, man, that's just crawling around.
If you want some really cool horror, there's a lot of Ramsey Campbell short story collections. That's probably the best way to go into them before you read a novel, because they're short, sweet, and they're creepy, and you read them and you're like, you could reread it if you want to. Like, okay, I didn't see where that was going to go. I'm going to start this book or this short story over, which is the books are a little more in depth and require a little more input. But yeah, find some of the short stories. Lumley's the same way. I think I like Lumley's short stories better than I like his novels. I think Lumley writes some really excellent short stories, especially his Lovecraft. So the thing about Lovecraftian fiction is you have the two kind of fields. You have the pure Lovecraftian Lovecraft. You have the guys that wrote some really good Lovecraft stuff. Then you have the people that weren't so great. The August Derlis, the people who just throw in Cthulhu to make it creepy, and they don't really advance anything into the Cthulhu mythos. Lumley did. Lumley created Chthonians, the worms beneath the earth that are tunneling through the earth. And so his stuff, he has some really good Lovecraft fiction, whereas some other ones, I've read some Lovecraftian anthologies, and I'm not kidding, Jim. 80% of the stories are crap. They're just
they usually are, right?
They just throw in Cthulhu at the end to make it, look, it's a Lovecraftian book. And they're really good.
Look, my mom was a Deep One hybrid, or I mean, they sound like bad 50s horror movies. My mom was a hybrid. Or
Campbell and Lumley are two. Their Lovecraftian fiction is worth reading. It's really, really well constructed, really, really good, and they actually add to the mythos too. They add
and that's why I'll pull us back to RPGs. That's why Delta Green, when Delta Green came out, what was horrifying for Chaosium was that Delta Green was out Cthulhuing Call of Cthulhu.
True.
And when I say that, Delta Green, the original Delta Green when it launched, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's X-Files for Cthulhu. Oh, motherfuckers, hold on. Because Delta Green was one vicious, nasty, nihilistic blow after another, right? That the Nazis are still around and you don't want to understand what the Nazis have been up to. One of the heavies, one of the heavies in the first couple of Delta Green books was an SS officer who had been around forever and was thoroughly committed to what he had committed himself to. And Delta Green, as it advances and more books have come out, and Ken Hyde has published things for Delta Green and all the rest of it. Delta Green still is that visceral, Call of Cthulhu, and I say this because Call of Cthulhu has a long history of some amazing products. I'll be the first one to praise Gaslight. I'll be the first person to praise Dreamlands. I'll be the first person to praise, and I will hold on high, Masks of Nyarlathotep. Fight me. Best RPG campaign ever. But for the pinnacles, there are a lot of low valleys in the Chaosium portfolio. And there is a lot of, and then Cthulhu. And okay.
Because you get the same problem, Jim. You get the people who are not really Lovecraftian, that they just basically throw in some deep ones. And it would be a regular horror story, but we're going to throw in deep ones and some ghouls, and now it's going to be Lovecraftian. By the way, you can find the Necronomicon in the room. And you're like, that's not.
I need. There's a Kickstarter that Delta Green. They're slowly filtering. They're slowly getting everything to print from a big Kickstarter from years ago. But every one of those products that ships is infinitely better than 90% of its competition, simply because it's unrelenting horror. I don't say this as a negative against Chaosium, but man, when you look at the highs and the lows, there's a reason so much of that Chaosium backlist is inexpensive and widely available, because it's a lot of crap. And it reads like the writer's room for Star Trek.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to have something that's going to fill this in with 32 pages. What do we have? How about we have a space shuttle land because they got infected by a Nego? Yes. And so, the troubleshooters show up to deal with with the space shuttle that's blah, blah, blah. And it's just hot, steaming garbage. And I wish it wasn't, but that's okay.
When Call of Cthulhu first came out, I was a huge Lovecraft fan. I loved it, bought it, ran all the scenarios because that's just what you did back then. And there's one of the first collections that came out was Shadows of Yog-Sothoth. And
yes,
even though it's considered a classic collection, all it is a rewrite of like 5 Lovecraft novels all shoved together in this thing.
Yep.
And the end is you go to Rely and you fight Cthulhu and you try to get Cthulhu to get raised. It's very slapdash.
It is.
Looking back on it, it's not very good. Not at least not up to the quality of a lot of stuff that's come out in the last 20 years or so.
No, and to Chaosium's credit, I think they've recognized that not only do you have to raise the bar on the artwork, but you also have to raise the bar on the quality of what you put out. But let's talk about Pagan, right? Like, let's talk about what Pagan's tour de force was like for about 5 or 6 years in the mid to late 90s, right? Mm-hmm. So Pagan Publishing got started in 91, 92, Unspeakable Oath. They start publishing things. They publish Grey Lady Down. Absolutely classic locked room adventure for a party of investigators. You're trapped on a submarine. There's shit going on outside the submarine. This is bad news. Then they did Walker in the Waste. And holy crap, all the talk about the Terror and the Erebus and Shackleton's expeditions, like, this is at the heart of all of this. If you've ever read Dan Simmons' The Terror, which is a brilliant book. Oh,
by the way, pretty good miniseries too. I saw the miniseries. It was good. It was okay.
Yes, Pagan Publishing got there first with Walker in the Waste, and Pagan Publishing did it right. And if you haven't read Walker in the Waste, it's spectacular. But there was one thing after another, and Pagan recognized they had a long incubated project they finally just killed, which was the End Times, which is what happens when Cthulhu shows up and the Earth is doomed, and how do you pick up the pieces? And so humanity, what's left of humanity, is what was on a couple of space stations, and they settle Mars. And every day is a struggle, and Earth is nothing but a gibbering madhouse of monstrosities. And the transmissions from Earth are all things like, "You should come back. Everything's great now. We swear."
And apparently, there's a story that apparently somebody got a telescope and looked at Earth, and they went insane right afterwards. And so they banned looking at Earth. You can't even look what's going on there because it's so horrific. And so they're on Mars. Humanity's down to like a few thousand people.
It's like a couple, yeah.
So you're underground. You're in Mars, but you find there was Martians once upon a time. So now, not only do you worry about Cthulhu shit, you worry about what's going on underneath the surface of Mars. The End Times is a really good setting. It's a very
classic setting, but they couldn't do it right, so they didn't publish it.
Yeah,
and that tells you something, right? When you've got your own breaks to say, I don't think we can do this the justice that it needs to, but the underlying concepts are horrific and nightmare fuel, absolutely nightmare fuel. Think about that. You're orbiting Earth, and you take one look at what's going on the surface of the Earth with a high resolution telescope, and you lose 85 points of sanity.
Well, and they also, not only that, they find out they're building spaceships on Earth now.
Oh, I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit, they're coming to Mars one of these days. We've got to do something to make sure that if they come this way, we don't let them land, because it's going to be game over for humanity forever if that happens. So it's a very bleak setting, but I thought it was really full of interesting ideas. I thought there's all kinds of really, really cool stuff you could do, especially, like I said, the stuff that's below. They kind of leave it up to your imagination what's below Mars. You get to kind of figure that out, which is kind of cool. So you have a whole setting that you can develop yourself, where you find tunnels under Mars and realize there was intelligent beings and then at one point you find out that they may have been Earth, and they may have been destroyed by Cthulhu creatures, and then so it gives you extra impetus to find out, okay, what happened here? What exactly happened when everything went wrong, and what can we do to possibly save Earth? And that's a very good study. I tell you what's really interesting going over because we're just talking about the 50th anniversary of Chaosium. We probably need a whole show on this eventually. So we'll probably should just because I've got
we should do a 50th anniversary long look at Chaosium,
because you could spend almost a whole show on Master Nyarlathotep. That's such an amazing campaign, one of the best campaigns I've ever run in my life, probably top 2 or 3. I had just absolute blast on that campaign. But and then of course they did RuneQuest. They're the first group. They did RuneQuest.
I'm getting something. Keep talking.
Okay. I think
they did ElfQuest. They did Stormbringer.
Yes, they did. They did the first Elric setting.
Yep.
It was They did Storm. I think it was called Stormbringer, right?
Yep.
It was Stormbringer.
They actually became Elric.
And Ken St. Andre.
Yes, I have that. It's great.
Oh, nice.
Good stuff. It's incredible. That's the big bound version, right? Yeah.
This is the Massive Nyarlathotep Companion published by Yog-Sothoth.
Yeah. Good stuff.
And this is the this is the Dark Pharaoh edition.
Oh, I have horror. I got the Kickstarter version of the horror. That's a huge ass box.
I got the 3-volume set. I don't have it with me right. I must have picked it up, but I don't have it with me. But yeah,
that's the companion. That's the filler material come up with people who just love the campaign.
Yeah, in case you want to run it and really, really run the hell out of that thing.
Yes. If you really want to make a year of Massive Nyarlathotep, you want the companion, which is no longer, I think, if you float around dark corners of the internet, you'll find where the PDF, you can download the PDF. It's brilliant. I say that very rarely, but like it's one of the greatest fan source projects. There's we talked about Jack Vance. One of the things that happened with Jack Vance is they did the integral version of Jack Vance, the Vance integral version, the VIG version of all of his works, where an entire team of volunteer editors went through and corrected everything. And then they published a gigantic set of everything Vance had ever written in hardcovers. You had to sign up and essentially this was before crowdfunding was even crowdfunding.
Right.
And so I don't know, every once in a while a VIG edition of the Vance works shows up on eBay or whatever. This, if you are a Vance person, that's the set of Vance that you want more than anything else if you weren't on part of the bandwagon. This was the companion book to that helps fill in all the little rough spots of Massive Nyarlathotep. It gives you more information. It gives you samples. It gives you handouts and so on and so forth. But I like the idea of doing a 50th anniversary. We could do a couple of weeks on Chaosium.
Yeah, because like I said, the RuneQuest stuff that came out. I mean, Griffin Mountain, one of the greatest RPG settings at the time. It came out in the 70s. Yeah. And it was basically it's a sandbox. It's a 70s sandbox.
All this stuff was sandbox. Big Rebel. I ran that as a sandbox, not knowing it was a sandbox, but it was a beautiful summer campaign with RuneQuest. And it was
converted to D&D. I converted to D&D, and I just because the locations were so cool. Yeah. It's such a Jaquays worked on. I can't remember. There's a bunch of really famous designers that worked on.
And don't forget that Chaosium did like Ringworld. They published Ringworld.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep. And they weren't afraid to tackle some interesting licenses and make some money here and there. They had art that was better than TSR's at a certain point. They were throwing more money at artwork and trying to come up with something. They carved out a really interesting space. But then when money got tight, they were smart enough to do the monographs, which have become highly collectible.
Yep, those are interesting. Yep. And that's a great idea too with that. That's a great idea.
Yes. And so I think, yes, there's a lot to talk about. I would say, I'm sort of watching the time here. We have a lot to look forward to in 2025. We have Call of Cthulhu. We've got all the upcoming conventions that are going to be working their way. we live in a luxurious time of high quality RPG products and a lot of interesting things going on, and we're still in the golden age of miniatures. We're in an interesting time in the industry where the single largest thing that's brought more people into the hobby than anything else is going through a transition, and after 10 years of that addition, people are looking at other games to play, which is great. It's a widening of the base. I think it's a great time. Like I look forward to.
Oh yeah, the OSR is at its peak. I think you can right now. If you like old school gaming, this is better than it was during old school gaming time, because you have everything it's all available. All this old school gaming stuff is all available, and whatever flavor you want there. You want the BX flavor, you want the OD&D flavor, you want the first edition flavor, you want the second edition flavor, you want the first, second, third. I mean, all the flavors are there now. And they're all available, and they've been written by some of the best designers in the industry. I mean, we have some of the lineup we have now, the people writing stuff. It's amazing. So it's a great time right now to be playing RPGs. It really is.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And if Eric would ever come out with his, fantasy heartbreaker, then
I know. I'm working on it. Actually, I am working on it. I've been working on it the past couple of days. I've been knee deep in some of that stuff, trying to reboot, because I was going out the wrong direction. And
no, I don't like to hear that.
Oh no, it's good. I was going, and then I was like, why am I limiting myself when I don't have to? Now I feel so much better, and we're moving, and I actually have designed a few new classes, so we're working on that.
You have the Gore Tarnsman in there now, is what you're trying to
no. Listen.
Oh, okay.
I've got certain limits. And even I,
roll up your Tarnsman.
But I mean, I have just a general question. In the prior couple of years, one of the driving forces for the popularity of D&D supposedly was all these live plays. All right, which really, when I say live play, it's a live play.
Critical Role started.
Yeah, because they aren't really playing, they're acting, whatever. They're going through the motions. But now a lot of these live plays are going to other systems. It isn't really pushing D&D as much as it was prior. Is that going to affect sales for
I think that the amount of drive that these live play shows generate is negligible, because what we're confusing people consuming content,
right,
as something that's actually going to push them to go create their own content. And truthfully, come on, the long history of our hobby is filled with 50 plus years of people accumulating content.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's great to say I'm going to play it. I think a lot of people have played D&D and gotten the books and are playing D&D because they saw something and they think it's cool. But you and I, all of us know that none of these games that we're running match the quality of Critical Role or something. And we also know that 99% of the live play that is on YouTube and whatnot is garbage.
Yeah.
It's hot, steaming garbage. And come on, I'm a guy that is conscious every time I say, I can't watch these shows. I see these people promoting them and I think to myself, you're out of your flipping mind. I try to concentrate so hard for 2 hours here to not repeat myself and not say stupid things and not just go, And
isn't that the whole point of your home games anyway? Is to bullshit, make jokes off color or otherwise, and in the midst of all that, move the game along.
I have a problem, right? So part of me cringes that we do this show every week because I think nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And that's okay.
The numbers prove us wrong, but okay, yes.
But I wrestle. I'll be the first person to say I wrestle with the fact that I do a weekly show. I pontificate a lot. I render my judgments. I have opinions and share them. I try not to monopolize the conversation. I try to be equilateral and all this stuff and so on. And I still am like, oh my God, don't be that guy. The first poppy that gets cut down is the tall poppy. Don't be the tall poppy. But allow me to put up a counterpoint. I came across a video channel. I'm going to tiptoe through this very cautiously. I'm tap dancing through a landmine. I came across a channel. We'll call it a channel where it is supposed to be, about games. It's supposed to be folks who play games talking about games. And instead, what I see is screed after screed of political content. It has nothing to do with games. It's just every time this person has like they make a video, they talk about whatever the dystopian future they envision. They talk about the dystopian past they have somehow managed to survive. It has jack all shit to do with games. And I think to myself, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this, right? We average 40, 50 people a week watching the show, coming in and out, having a great time.
Right, and that's just the live numbers. Usually, by the end of 7 days, we've got 400 or 500 viewers. It's a beautiful thing.
And you know what? I'm happy that people are willing to invest the time. I like to think that we talk about interesting things, that we share things that people might not know about. I hope a couple of you go read the Gene Wolfe books and go, whoa. But when I see this Yahoo who has 8 total views on his latest political screed, and I think to myself, this is endemic. This is absolutely endemic within this whole narcissistic culture of I'm an influencer, or I have my live play, and your live play is you and 3 other dudes, or you and some other people, and you don't even look like you're having fun, right? Like, the idea is you provide some kind of entertainment. I mean, at least if you hate me, I give you a venue 2 hours a week that you can watch, and you can hate me. And you can say, that Jim Kitchen, he waves his hands a lot. He's loud. He's going bald. What's his problem? Why does he have a platypus over his shoulder? I don't have answers to these questions. But you at least, I give you 2 hours a week to hate me. And that's it.
Well, I get all this flack from my buddies here about Jenny D, because I'm kind of a champion of Jenny D. And look, I know what she is, and I know what she does. But you know what she does? She does a video a week, and it's always fun, and it's funny, and she's cute, and she talks about some stuff. It's never deep. It's never political, ever political. It's always about gaming, or about a question about gaming, or about this game. It's always on target. And you know what?
Yes.
It's like reading an Archie comic book after a long day. You're not going to be challenged. You're not going to cry at the end. You're not going to be bothered. There's no cliffhangers. It's just an Archie comic where Betty and Veronica and Reggie, they're all up to hijinks. And that's a Jenny D video for me. And so I can watch that and have it's like eating a quarter pounder with cheese, right? It's just there. It's a hamburger. You eat it, whatever. But you're right. There's some of these guys, they put these videos up, and I'm like, who is this video for? I don't even understand who it's for.
My cabal will watch my video, and the money will roll in.
But I mean, some of the, not even just that, some of the more popular live plays, I try to watch those, and I'm like you, Jim, I can't get through it. Because they all want to be Critical Role, and they all think they're Critical Role.
I'm getting ready to roll. Okay, I'm going to roll now. Here comes my roll. Okay, do you see it? No, I see your forehead. Okay, well, my roll is a 6.
Yeah.
You needed an 18. Oh,
it's like,
okay.
It reminds me, look, The Big Bang Theory was a phenomenon, but you didn't see 17 networks all putting on their Big Bang Theory clones, because it would have been awful. That's what you get with all this. I'm going to rant now. That's what you get with all these play videos. They're all trying to be Critical Role, and they're all failing miserably. And look, going back, Critical Role was okay 5 years ago. I don't even know what they're doing now. I haven't watched it in 5-6 years, but you can't mimic them and do anything like they're doing, and everybody's trying to, and it's just not. It just doesn't work. And
just because you watched 2 days worth of BritBox doesn't mean that your live play needs to sound like this. Forsooth and yea, verily, yon varlet, I wonder who you are. Like, God, stop it. Just stop it. Look, you're making Mike twitch. Don't do it. Don't.
Yeah, and this is a lot. One of the things wrong with comics right now, and the reason has been in the absolute crap for the last 10 years, is because everybody that gets into comics now doesn't want to work with comics. You know what they want to do, Jim? They want to work in Hollywood. And they want to be a writer. So this is a stepping stone. They don't give a shit about comics. They'll let you know they don't care about comics. They don't give a hoot about it. They want to work in Hollywood.
Is that a treasured character that people have loved for 50 years? Here, I'm going to do something that's horribly out of character, and that's called innovation.
I'm gonna make Captain America a serial killer because nobody would expect that. Ha ha ha. What the fuck are you doing? So anyway, that's what these people are doing now. They're not wanting to play D&D. They want to be Critical Role and have a Kickstarter and make $8 million and have their own cartoon.
And so never deliver.
It's an ends to a means. It's a means to, it's a means to an ends.
It's an ends, means ends. It's something.
It's means to an ends. And that's all. You can see it. You can see it when you're watching it. You don't care about this product. You are doing this merely to make money or to parlay this into a bigger job somewhere else. And I detest that. I will look. I don't even, if your show's not any good, that's one thing. But as long as you're sincere, I'm okay. Which is, like I said, that's why I give Ginny D a pass. She does what she does.
I give all of them a pass, sincere. Right?
But I mean, I
give a pass because
I'm just using that name as just a fill-in name. It could be anybody.
Oh no, you're just trying to trigger Mr. Gunn, but he's not in today.
No.
Okay, wait.
Gunn's not watching, but he'd be having a heart attack now.
So in the end, what we all know, everybody, the three of us and everybody who's watching this, what we all know is the market will decide your success.
Yeah.
And here's my pro tip. If your channel, that is, in theory, people who play games talking about games, and all you're doing is talking about politics, and the total amount of viewers that you're getting is less than the number of digits on my two hands, you may want to think about finding something else to do with your efforts, because you're not getting the traction that's probably going to keep a roof over your head. And I'm just like, Mike and I and Eric make no money from our little effort, right? The funds that we get from the super lucrative views of this show all go to 10 Cars, sort of fund for helping out other companies and other people. And that's how the money gets done, right? If you think that Mike and I are rolling in Scrooge McDuck money from the drippings that Eric is letting us have from the lucrative amounts of monies he's making on this stream, I got news for you, right? I'm still in a basement. And that's just it.
That's the reality. We do this. I tell people this all the time. The currency that you can best pay us in is your likes, your comments, your feedback. All right? We're not making. I had one person about a year ago go off on some rant on Facebook about how I do all this for the clicks to make the big bucks. And I'm like, dude, an average video makes $4. I'm not doing it for big, and that's a good day. I'm not doing it for the big bucks. Trust me, it isn't there.
Are you high? Because you're telling me you're high.
Yeah, it's like, well, we know you do this. You do this for all the clicks because you make all that money. It's like
you're the same person that believes the stripper likes you, and they do, right? Like,
she doesn't. Whoa, it's empty now. She doesn't. Son of a what a coincidence.
That's a lie. She liked me a lot the last week.
I'm sure she did.
I ran out of ones though.
She likes you every payday, man. Don't worry about it. Every payday.
Yeah, she didn't like me there.
So I think what I would say is, I think about what's coming up, like the sort of game day. We've got Page coming up. We've got the game day in North Texas.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Gary Con around the corner. We've got a whole slate of other conventions coming up. There's EggCon, there's Origins, there's, Gen Con. I mean, we've got a year of great shows coming.
Yeah,
we'll have a great year of guests
this year. I'm going to 6 conventions. Holy crap!
You know what, guys? I think what I think is going to be great about this year. We don't have the specter of 50th anniversary hanging over everything. It was just like the unfulfilled specter of 50th anniversary hanging over everything. It's back to gaming as normal. Let's just go have fun. Let's not worry about what he does this year. They screwed the pooch last year. Fine, move on. And I think this is going to be a great year in that regard because now we don't have to worry about 50th. They're blowing the 50th anniversary. They're ruining the 50th anniversary. This is terrible. We don't worry about it. It's gone. That's back here now. Now we're going to move ahead. We're in 2025. Let's see what the next chapter is going to be. And let's see what the next chapter is going to be with OSR, what it's going to be with, I guess, VTT. I mean, there's so many interesting directions I feel coming ahead. I'm really interested to see what happens. I'd like to know if, I was just talking about, the online gaming. Is that even such a big thing anymore? Because that was huge a few years ago, but I don't see people talking about that as much as they do.
I don't know. I still use a VTT. So I mean,
the Critical Role. I'm talking about the Critical Role stuff.
Oh, the critical role
stuff. That's still that big anymore?
Listen, remember, WotC couldn't even promote. By the way, that D&D channel still exists. I found it.
God.
Oh, the one that's on Samsung TV.
Yeah. It's like Freeview or something like that.
No. So if you have a Samsung TV that's up on that's connected to the internet,
okay,
you can actually get Samsung TV channels, and you don't have to pay anything for them. They're included.
Right.
And there is a D&D channel. And so the D&D channel runs the cartoons nonstop, or they run live play. And I tried watching it for about 5 minutes a week ago, and it hurt. I mean, I can show you on the doll where it hurt me, but it just hurt me all over.
So it didn't get it. So last time Eric saw it last year, it didn't get any better.
Did you watch the cooking show?
Oh boy.
No, I haven't seen theirs.
Oh my God. Listen. It's painful, and it's painful when WotC hyped it up, and then when the launch date came, they didn't even mention it. So it's like, all right, hold on a second. You hyped it, and now it's the launch day, and there was no announcement. And people are going, "Isn't this the day it was launching?" I believe you can find it on Freevee or Freebie.
It was on Freebie for a while.
It's still there.
I'm going to check it out when I get off. I want to check see if it's still on there.
But it isn't on demand. It's not like you can go, hey, I want to watch Purple Worm Kill. Sorry, you can only catch it at certain times during the day. You can't go.
Oh, that's the show I saw. Purple Worm.
Purple Worm Kill. Listen, if there are live plays that you enjoy, I'm going to tell you this right now. They aren't on the D&D channel. All right? Let's just clear that up. If there are ones that are
fair comment,
if there are ones that are entertaining, and listen,
do you care for entertainment?
And you want to be entertained, and not by the D&D cartoon, which is timeless. And I will, if I stumble across, I'll go, I have this on DVD. Oh, I can watch it on YouTube on demand, but I will stop and watch it to like the commercial break. But if you really want, I'm going to use air quotes, quality live play.
Were you surprised when somebody got murdered on Murder, She Wrote every week? I'm just curious, Eric.
You would think
guest star did it? I can't believe that.
You would think that if you were going to put out a channel that is branded Dungeons and Dragons, that you would put on something that's quality content. I mean, maybe
not only that, but I don't want to get into this, but once again, the 50th anniversary. You couldn't.
Oh, stop!
Put Luke Gygax, a bunch of his butt. I will tune in just for prurient, voyeurism to see Luke, Vince Vaughn, Joe Manganiello, and the
Oh
dude
yeah,
from whatever the rock band. I would watch that, and the big wrestler guy. Okay, you got
yeah, no.
Big Show and Tom Morello. Yes,
I'll
all
watch
those
one
people.
episode of that.
Oh no, I would
do that. They couldn't get that
I
together.
would come back regularly for that, just for the pure entertainment value of the people on the screen. But no, this is like what you know. What it makes me feel like I'm watching the Gen Con YouTube channel all over again.
That was bad too.
Oh my god!
You couldn't get Deborah Wall, who is probably famously the the biggest actress that plays. You couldn't get her to run a game on the D&D channel. I mean, there are just so many missed opportunities here. It's like like you were saying about the Gen Con channel, which was just an absolute travesty against humanity. I think the war crimes in Helsinki are still looking for the creators of that show because they want to throw them in a prison cell next to some claws.
I think that Ernie Gygax is from a different parent than Luke Gygax. There might be some sisters in there too, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, they didn't know that. They didn't know.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god, that's so painful. You're killing me.
Yeah, that was terrible. You made me watch it, Eric, and I'll never forgive you. Among other things, I'll never forgive you for, because you talking about that made me watch it, and then now I have neuron pathways in my skull that have died. They've just fizzled out because I watched that ridiculous thing. So yeah, they can't do anything better, which just drives me crazy, because anybody, like I said, I just pitched you a show there. You can't get Luke. What's Luke doing? That's all Luke did all last year, was be an ambassador to the hobby and travel around stuff. You couldn't get him to sit there for 3 hours and run a game for Joe M and all that group. I mean, come on, man. You're not even trying.
No, they aren't trying.
We're talking about the past.
I know. But I'm just saying is that so. But this is still going on. Why are they still running this channel? Well, what is
because you know what? This is my personal thoughts on it. As far as I can tell, there's no new content. Most of this content,
makes sense.
Even the live plays were live plays that were available on YouTube that are now just being put on this D&D channel. So it's not even like new content. It is, hey, we're gonna brand this D&D and it's gonna be great. This is gonna make us money. Whatever it is, it's atrocious.
It's like trying to watch the movie Xanadu, right?
All right,
better yet.
Wait.
It's like trying to watch the movie Sergeant. It's like trying to watch the movie Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
That is a horrible.
You hear the name and you think Beatles, and yet instead you get the Gibbs and Peter Frampton.
Peter Frampton, yeah.
And you're like, I did not want this side order of Peter Frampton and Gibbs. I wanted the Beatles, and that's not what you got.
I did not want green eggs and ham.
Playing Strawberry Fields.
Right. And again, Xanadu.
Never did anything.
You watch Xanadu and you think to yourself, I will never get this precious time of my life back ever again. And they keep luring you in with Olivia Newton-John and ELO, and you're like, well, that music doesn't suck.
Well, yeah, it's ELO.
And the movie is terrible.
ELO. Come on, it's going to be good, right? Yeah.
It's awful. And I guess what I would say, right, and I've said this before, this is a good closing thought for me for tonight. You can consume art or you can create art, right? But when you're consuming a product or something like this, it's on you to be the one trying to make sure that you are consuming the best thing you can. I can read the Ian Toll Pacific War trilogy, or I could watch the Dungeons and Dragons channel on my Samsung free cable.
And it's free, Jim, and it has D&D on it. It's got to be good.
Sure. And I got a bridge I could sell you.
Well, I hope it's not the Brooklyn Bridge, because that
luckily most people aren't going to watch that garbage, and they're gonna play. And look, I have a lot. I'm looking forward to 2025 in the realm of D&D. I mean, I'm just looking here, and I'm looking at all the Kickstarters that are going to be coming out. Kelsey's going to have a new Kickstarter in March. James Spawn's got a Kickstarter. I mean,
I'm looking forward to James.
I mean, Osric is coming out, so I just mentioned that. Osric 3.0 is supposed to kick. I mean, it's going to be a great year in the OSR.
Oh, yeah.
Besides
I'm looking forward to getting my books.
Yeah, all the zines that are going to be coming out that I still love. All Gary's appendix, which I love.
I feel like you lay on your bed smothering yourself in zines, like at least once a week, rolling back and forth, going,
Zine Quest, yes.
Zine
I
cuddle.
love Zine Quest. What happened to Zine Quest? They need to bring that back. That was awesome. What was it? What the month Kickstarter Zine month or what do they call that? What was that, Aaron?
Well, they screwed it up one year and then they
they messed it up. Yeah. But I mean, that's the heart of the hobby. That's the heart of the hobby there, of the old school hobby. 5e, great, whatever. You guys keep rolling along, do what you do. But I'm always going to come back to the old school stuff, to the small press stuff, to the mom and pop stuff. That's where the life of the hobby is, right? I mean, that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
Arduin. Somebody mentions Arduin. Arduin again. I did not. I got a late in life exposure to Arduin. And Arduin really is like somebody just decided to chop up every 80s action movie and throw it into an RPG in theory, and then just let it roll. And it's not that it's a bad idea. Like, I understand why you would pick and choose and steal and so on and so forth. But Arduin Arduin exhausts me, even the concept of Arduin. And it's not that I don't appreciate Arduin. I just don't have the energy for it, right? Because I just keep wanting to do like Schwarzenegger one-liners and have explosions and.
But you had flying sharks, Jim. Yes,
I know you had flying sharks.
That's what I'm saying. That was the world.
I'm going to say this because I didn't say it at the time we had the Arduin guys on, and they were unbelievably super nice. But you know what? When did Arduin come out? 1980?
Oh no, it was before that. It was the 70s. I'm pretty sure.
So I would be interested to know if Arduin was published before or after John Varley's Titan.
Oh boy.
Arduin was 1977.
Yeah.
Because John Varley's Titan had flying sharks.
Yeah,
Now,
but come on, man. Gary stole Displacer Beast from A.E. Van Volt, so
I know. It was published in 70.
If you're gonna steal good stuff. Steal kick-ass shit.
That's right.
That's still the best.
So Varley stole from Arduin, but again, I think it's going to be a great year. We know about some projects that are coming that are going to be amazing. There are projects we don't know about that are coming that will be amazing, and more than anything else, it's just forward. It's not backwards.
Right. I like that.
I'll have a D&D module coming out this year. I keep forgetting about Beneath the Unknown. Tom Wilson's working on it right now as we speak. He's doing my editing. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited about that. The first thing I've done that I took the lead on. I've written other things, but it's always been as a secondary role. That's the first thing I took the lead on. So this will be fun. I'm excited about this year. It's going to be great.
So, all right.
And we won't have watching to kick around anymore for the 50th anniversary. Been there, done that, saw that.
They've made their bed. Let them lie in it.
There you go. God bless.
It's over.
That's
over
right.
and done with. Folks, I have no idea if there's a live stream tomorrow night. But I don't know. However, oh my God, Glenn and I, Friday, Rach and I were back on Saturday. So, thank you.
Paige, you're gonna be at Paige in a couple.
I'll be at Paige. I'll be paging, and I'll be paging, total conning, Wizard conning, North Texas conning, Central New York conning. Right after North Texas, that's going to be one hell of a week.
It's gonna be a tough 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, it's a tough 2 weeks.
I look forward to your COVID illness.
Oh, I'll be percolating at CNY Con.
You're gonna be like a stew of viruses by the time that's all over.
Oh my God. But folks, thank you all for joining us for the new year. We are also now on Rumble for the live streams because Restream fixed the Rumble interface and made it work.
Great.
So there you go. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Back again tomorrow with something or other. Whatever.